interior emotion. Besides, I had wept uninterruptedly for several minutes. My eyes were swollen, and I did not wish my companions to see me. The state of ecstasy may have lasted 4 or 5 minutes, although it seemed at the time to last much longer. My comrades waited for me 10 minutes at the cross of Barine, but I took about 25 or 30 minutes to join them, for as well as I can remember, they said that I had kept them back for about half an hour. The impression had been so profound that in climbing slowly the slope, I asked myself if it were possible that Moses on Sinai could have had a more intimate communication with God. I think it well to add that in this ecstasy of mine, God had neither form, color, odor, nor taste. Moreover, that the feeling of his presence was accompanied with no determinate localization. It was rather as if my personality had been transformed by the presence of a spiritual spirit. But the more I seek words to express this intimate intercourse, the more I feel the impossibility of describing the thing by any of our usual images. At bottom, the expression most apt to render what I felt is this: God was present, though invisible. He fell under no one of my senses, yet my consciousness perceived him. Close quote. The adjective mystical is technically applied, most often, to states that are of brief duration. Of course, such hours of rapture as the last 2 persons describe are mystical experiences, of which in a later lecture I shall have much to say. Meanwhile, here is the abridged record of another mystical or semi-mystical experience, in a mind evidently framed by nature for ardent piety. I owe it to Starbuck's collection. The lady who gives the account is the daughter of a man well known in his time as a writer against Christianity. The suddenness of her conversion shows well how native the sense of God's presence must be to certain minds. She relates that she was brought up in entire ignorance of Christian doctrine, but when in Germany, after being talked to by Christian friends, she read the Bible and prayed, and finally the plan of salvation flashed upon her like a stream of light. Quote, "To this day," she writes, "I cannot understand dallying with religion and the commands of God. The very instant I heard my Father's cry calling unto me, my heart bounded in recognition. I ran, I stretched forth my arms, I cried aloud, 'Here, here I am, my Father! O happy child, what should I do?' 'Love me,' answered my God. 'I do, I do,' I cried passionately. 'Come unto me,' called my Father. 'I will,' my heart panted. Did I stop to ask a single question? Not one. It never occurred to me to ask whether I was good enough, or to hesitate over my unfitness, or to find out what I thought of his church, or to wait until I should be satisfied. Satisfied! I was satisfied. Had I not found my God and my Father? Did he not love me? Had he not called me? Was there not a church into which I might enter? Since then, I have had direct answers to prayer, so significant as to be almost like talking with God and hearing his answer. The idea of God's reality has never left me for a moment." Close quote. Here is still another case, the writer being a man aged 27, in which the experience, probably almost as characteristic, is less vividly described. Quote, "I have on a number of occasions felt that I had enjoyed a period of intimate communion with the divine. These meetings came unasked and unexpected, and seemed to consist merely in the temporary obliteration of the conventionalities which usually surround and cover my life. Once it was when from the summit of a high mountain I looked over a gashed and corrugated landscape extending to a long convex of ocean that ascended to the horizon, and again from the same point when I could see nothing beneath me but a boundless expanse of white cloud, on the brown surface of which a few high peaks, including the one I was on, seemed plunging about as if they were dragging their anchors. What I felt on these occasions was a temporary loss of my own identity, accompanied by an illumination which revealed to me a deeper significance than I had been wont to attach to life. It is in this that I find my justification for saying that I have enjoyed communication with God. Of course, the absence of such a being as this would be chaos. I cannot conceive of life without its presence." Close quote. Of the more habitual, and so to speak, chronic sense of God's presence, the following sample from Professor Starbuck's manuscript collection may serve to give an idea. It is from a man aged 49. Probably thousands of unpretending Christians would write an almost identical account. Quote, "God is more real to me than any thought or thing or person. I feel his presence positively, and the more as I live in closer harmony with his laws as written in my body and mind. I feel him in the sunshine or rain, and awe mingled with a delicious restfulness most nearly describes my feelings. I talk to him as to a companion in prayer and praise, and our communion is delightful. He answers me again and again, often in words so clearly spoken that it seems my outer ear must have carried the tone, but generally in strong mental impressions. Usually a text of Scripture, unfolding some new view of him and his love for me, and care for my safety. I could give hundreds of instances in school matters, social problems, financial difficulties, etc. That he is mine and I am his never leaves me. It is an abiding joy. Without it, life would be a blank, a desert, a shoreless, trackless waste." Close quote. I subjoined some more examples from writers of different ages and sexes. They are also from Professor Starbuck's collection, and their number might be greatly multiplied. The first is from a man 27 years old. Quote, "God is quite real to me. I talk to him and often get answers. Thoughts sudden and distinct from any I have been entertaining come to my mind after asking God for his direction. Something over a year ago, I was for some weeks in the direst perplexity. When the trouble first appeared before me, I was dazed, but before long, 2 or 3 hours, I could hear distinctly a passage of Scripture, 'My grace is sufficient for thee.' Every time my thoughts turned to the trouble, I could hear this quotation. I don't think I ever doubted the existence of God or had him drop out of my consciousness. God has frequently stepped into my affairs very perceptibly, and I feel that he directs many little details all the time. But on 2 or 3 occasions he has ordered ways for me very contrary to my ambitions and plans." Close quote. Another statement, none the less valuable psychologically for being so decidedly childish, is that of a boy of 17. Quote, "Sometimes as I go to church, I sit down, join in the service, and before I go out, I feel as if God was with me, right side of me, singing and reading the Psalms with me. And then again, I feel as if I could sit beside him and put my arms around him, kiss him, etc. When I am taking Holy Communion at the altar, I try to get with him and generally feel his presence." Close quote. I let a few other cases follow at random. Quote, "God surrounds me like the physical atmosphere. He is closer to me than my own breath. In him literally I live and move and have my being." Quote, There are times when I seem to stand in his very presence, to talk with